Hey guys, something happened that I didn't expect, and I think it's valuable to share it with you. I've stopped using Windsurf and Cursor. In fact, I started paying for Windsurf on 2nd December last year. And you can see that I was using it in December, but then usage dropped. What happened? Claude with MCPs happened. If you saw my last video, I started playing with that in December. And MCPs give Claude access to any kind of tools. So you can automate almost anything depending on tools you gave it. And since then, I've built my own MCP server. MCP server that allows Claude to run long-running processes on your machine. Any kind of processes, like for example, I did video encoding with it. It can also access your file system and do things like large codebase exploration. Read a lot of files, explore everything, read readmes, create documentation for you, and draw high-level diagrams that allow you to understand the repositories quickly. And I use it this way frequently. Another thing that it can do is it can edit code files and run code. And not only just write one file, it can do diff editing, it can do multi-file editing, and it can do even multi-repository things. For example, I used it to migrate code from my side project from older frameworks to Vanilla.js. 30 files, 3,500 lines of code. Not too big, but it did all of that, and I only fixed one line. So it can do almost anything. I still was expecting to use Windsurf for this kind of things, but I found myself using Windsurf less and less and using Claude with MCPs more and more. In fact, I asked Claude to scrap my usage of Claude. And you can see here a chart of how many times per month I was using it for the last couple of years. You can see that I used it for something like 430 times with spikes during their launching some things. But half of this usage, around 200 chats, happened in the last 3 months. I even crunched some numbers and it seems my usage is 5x from before. So yes, access to tools makes LLM models much more useful. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. So I've published my MCP into the NPM and also into Symmetry, MCP server repository. And you can here see it's on the 7th place with 3,000 downloads by now. With Symmetry, you can install it with just one line. All you need is to have Node.js installed on your system and Claude Desktop app installed on your system. If you have those two, just use this line in terminal and you're done. You can start using it. So this is what I want to show you, how to quickly install it and how you can use it for long processes, code exploration, and code editing. So let's take a look at that. So first you will need to install Node.js. You will also need to download Claude Desktop app, like I already did. And then you will need to go to this URL, and all the URLs will be in the pinned comment and description. And there you will need to copy this command and paste it and run in terminal. Let's do just that. It will take only a moment. It adds it to Claude, and then it will ask to restart. And you do need to restart it so that it picks up a new added server. So let's restart it. Here it's restarting. And you will not see immediately the new tools. It will take a moment for it to install and run and add the tools to the chat. So it will take a second. And here they are, 19 tools. We can click on this and take a look at what kind of tools were added. And we can see that there are tools to create directories, edit blocks of files, execute commands, kill processes, list directories and processes, and so on and so on. Bunch of tools. So now that it's installed and working, I wanted to show you a couple of ways that I use it. One of the use cases that I really like doing with it is exploring code bases that I don't know and asking it to draw high-level diagrams that allow me to quickly understand what is happening and how it works. So let's do just that. And let's do that with a repository of its own code itself. So let's make it explain itself. So let's copy the path name. Let's put it here, and then I will use Super Whisper to dictate what I want it to do. Here is a code repository. I want you to explore it thoroughly and then use Mermaid.js diagrams to create high-level diagrams that will explain to me how it works, what it does, and where is what. Let's see. Yeah, let's give it a try. So this is the way that Claude today works with MCPs. In each chat, for the first time that new command is used, like here we see list directory, you will need to allow it for this chat. Next time it will try to use this command, it will not ask. Or you can allow once and it will be asking each time. So let's allow this for this chat. In other chats, it will ask again. And you cannot change anything about that, which is a little bit sad. So it listed files in the directory. Now it wants to read a file, a README file. So now I allowed 2 commands. It should be enough for it to do the whole job now. Let's see what happens. So it read README, it read package.json with dependencies, it listed files in source directory, it read index file, server file, terminal manager, command manager, it read files in tools folder, schemas. So it basically goes through a bunch of files and reads them. And now it starts to do a diagram. And this is something that Cursor and Windsurf don't do out of the box. And something that I kind of like about Claude in this sense. You get ability to show visual artifacts like web pages or diagrams right in this window. And you can kind of achieve something similar with Cursor or Windsurf. It just usually doesn't come to your mind to try to use it this way. And there are some frictions. I will show you for comparison. So the diagrams are finished. I think we can take a look. So it generated, 6 diagrams. There is one component diagram, one more, a more detailed one. There is sequence execution. There is sequence diagram for execution of terminal commands and processes. There is file editing operations, sequence diagram. And sequence diagrams, they show what kind of methods are called when, to what kind of components. You can kind of get a high-level understanding of how the system works and what is the sequence of things that happen and who exchanges what with whom. There is file operations and security, block diagram, and another one for server architecture. I think from all of these, let's take a look at one. I think terminal command execution looks the most interesting one in this sense. So let's take a look what it gives us and what it tells us about the repository. It says that, hey, Claude desktop sends execution command with command and timeout. Command is validated against a list of allowed commands, and if it's valid, it executes it by spawning a process in operating system. Operating system returns an ID of the process and also starts to return output. And then if timeout is reached, and this is the interesting part in how my MCP server works, it has a timeout for these processes. But timeout doesn't mean that process is terminated after timeout. No, it continues to run. But it returns control to Claude, back to Claude, along with ID and output you got so far. What this allows you to do is to run long-running processes and run multiple of them, so they don't block you from continuing your work. You can run multiple of them, and then it can use the ID, Claude can use the ID to ask again for new output. You can see here that we can send command with process ID to read output and get new output from the process that is running in the background. I will later show you an example with video encoding of how that works. But basically, this is an example. Here, I gave a code base to Claude. It went through a bunch of files, read them, and made for me this documentation and diagrams that allow me to quickly understand what is the repository, where is what, and how it works. And I use this for documentation, for sharing diagrams of what I did or looking at what others did through these kinds of diagrams. And it's not bad. Most of this is correct. Honestly, in this case, everything is correct. And yeah, I see these models making mistakes in this kind of things less and less. You still need to go and check yourself, but it really gives you a very quick, high-level understanding of approximately how the codebase works. And here, yeah, everything is correct. This brings us to a question, though. Claude can do this. I like this. I do it a lot. I just gave it a folder and it did it for me in one command. But can Cursor and Windsurf do that? Let's take a look at this next and compare. Because they can. It just kind of didn't come to my mind before I started doing it here. But still, usually when I want to do this, I reach out to Claude. Let's see why. By trying to ask Windsurf to do this thing. And you need to be tricky in how you ask. So let's open Windsurf. Let's open the project. Let's wait for Cascade to open. We have Claude 3.7 for fair comparison, same that we used in Claude. And let's ask it. Here is a code repository. I want you to thoroughly explore it and create HTML file for me that contains high-level diagrams explaining how the project works, where is what, and so that I can have a high-level understanding of it. And let's go. Now I asked here for an HTML page. The reason I did that is that Windsurf cannot show any kind of diagrams in its chat. And this is partially why I never thought about asking Windsurf to do this. But in reality, it can write files, it can write documentation. And we just got a cascade error, not a very lucky try. Let's ask it to try again. I wonder what the hell happened. Okay, so it's analyzing. It's reading the README, similar thing that it did. What's interesting, it only read 200 lines of README. And this starts to show you the example of why usually I think Claude does better job. It read again only 200 lines of package.json. It could be that it's enough. Let me check. If we open README, how many lines it has. It was enough, so it did read them in full. But you can see that it's reading. It does pretty similar thing as Claude did so far, right? So it's exploring, it's reading the files. It's usually reading them for a couple of hundreds of lines. I wonder what it would have done if the file was larger. Okay, now it's creating project overview. But basically, in my experience, for larger projects, I would say that they both Claude and Windsurf has their ups and downs, but Windsurf with this kind of scans misses things, misses context, and ends up more often wrong than when I use Claude for this purpose. But let's see. It does take its time. I hope it succeeds. It seems to have succeeded. 406 lines. So it created a comprehensive. Oh, it did something new. Something I haven't seen it do before. It opened it. That's interesting. Huh. That's new. That's not something it did before. But let's take a look. So I took a small pause, not so that we don't go reviewing everything in detail again, because we already did similar thing in Claude. But what I can say here is that Windsurf did comparably good job as Claude here. We can see that there is high-level diagram. We can see core component diagram here. We can see folder structure. We can see a sequence diagram that we saw similar one in Claude here, and maybe the only thing I dislike is that it's such a wide core component one, but otherwise Windsurf did a good job. So yes, Windsurf can be used as well, like Claude, for exploring Codebase and drawing diagrams. In my experience, it's slightly worse, and there is a little bit more friction. While in Claude, I can just give it a URL to a folder and ask it to do things. To do something similar in Windsurf, I need to open a folder, I need to wait for it to load, and we are waiting. And we are waiting. So yeah, you probably can already see where my friction comes in. Like, it's a little bit slower and harder to work with Windsurf for whatever the reason in this kind of use cases, where I just give it a folder and just go and work with it and chat with it. Somehow it's, yeah, okay, finally it opened, and now I can ask. So, I don't know, with Windsurf for this kind of use cases, it feels like it's kind of harder to control. It sometimes misses things, and there is friction of it being a code editor that asks you to do code editing things, while maybe you want to do other things. So this is one of the reasons why I'm reaching out to Claude instead of Windsurf for past months. And next, I want to show you something else, something that you probably would never use Windsurf or Cursor for, and that is video encoding. Because with MCP that I'm showing you, you can run long-running processes like video encoding. Let me show you. Here is a chat I did before. I will not show you it real time this time, but here is a chat where I gave it just URL to a file and asked it to check it out. It ran some terminal commands that were fast to determine that it's 2.5 gigabytes in size, it's 16 minutes long. It ran FFmpeg, library that is used for working with video files, encoding and editing them in certain ways. It checked it with FFmpeg and checked that it's 18 minutes long and bitrate is 20 kilobytes per second, which is very big, it's kind of raw. So I asked it to compress it. And it says that yes, we can definitely compress it. We can do a couple of things that will make this size smaller, and it starts to run the process of compression with certain parameters, telling me that it will use this kind of codec for video, this kind of codec for audio, it will keep original resolution and frame rate, and it started the work. And like here, we can see that it started the process. And it gets back information from FFmpeg about the process. It gets that the process ID is this, like we are doing this, and it's encoding. And so it says that it started. So, and as it's working, it can also read the output again. What's new since the last time we checked? And it reads that and says, okay, the compression is in progress. Looking at bitrate, we can see it's significantly reduced from original 20,000 kilobytes per second to 2,000 to 3,000 kilobytes per second. This should result in a much smaller file size of 300 to 400 megabytes instead of 2.5 gigabytes. And that's it. It's answered me. And like I leave the chat, I go to do maybe some other work, maybe using Claude, maybe not using that. And then I return back and ask it, okay, check how much is left. It reads output from this process ID again and says that looking at the progress, original duration is 18 minutes, current progress is around 2.5 minutes, speed is 4.5x, meaning that it processes 6 times faster than real time. So compression is 1,500 kilobytes based on the current progress. And processing speed, it should take up about 1 to 2 more minutes to complete. And would you like me to check again? I again left, returned, and asked it, okay, check again. It read and found no active session. That means that session finished. It still can read sessions from the PID that it captured, like it captures and stores processes outputs even if they closed. So it checked what was the last messages, that it finished. Great result. Original size 2.5 gigabytes, compressed 237 megabytes, reduction of 91%. And that's how you can use MCP that I'm sharing with you here to do this kind of processes. Do any kind of work with files. It can be work with images, work with videos. You can ask it to install libraries and do almost anything. This is partially why I called it desktop commander in that sense, because through terminal it can do a lot of things. Not all of the things, but great many things. And usually you wouldn't even think about using Windsurf or Cursor for this. They can run commands. It's just that they are not actually tailored for this kind of long-running commands, and they are not actually tailored with working across this operating system. They usually work with your project, folder, code base. This thing, it works with your whole machine. It can search across the files, it can call commands, it can install libraries. So yeah, this is how you can use it. But what about coding? A couple of months ago, I expected that I will be using Windsurf for large code-based work. But somehow I ended up in a situation where Claude with MCP that I'm showing to you is able to handle that as well. One of the examples I had was migration of the projects that I mentioned. Let's actually check that. Yeah, here is one example that I mentioned. I had an old project that used libraries that I need to refactor and migrate that were too old, and I ended up asking just Claude to refactor and migrate it from libraries it was using, older TypeScript, React, some kind of other libraries, to just vanilla JS. And the way I was doing it, I was saying to it, hey, here is a project, go and explore it. And like I showed you at the start of this video, it lists directories, reads files, explores, gives me an explanation of how things work. Then I give it another folder and say, hey, here is another project and it's missing a feature. Can you check out how that other project works? It's vanilla JS project, and migrate that missing feature into there. And it again reads files, explores the directory, explores the code base, and starts writing. And this is how, for me, over multiple of chats, it migrated 5,000 lines of TypeScript to vanilla JavaScript, something like 30 files, 50 files to 30 files. Yeah, kind of it works. It works on somewhat larger projects quite fine for this kind of use case. But I was not planning to show this to you today. And I was thinking, what else can we do that would be fun and would still demonstrate how it can do things that usually Windsurf or Cursor can. And I was thinking just to do a little fun project with you and iterate on it. So let's give it a try. So here is my work folder. I did try it again, and I did try it before, and I will try it with you to replicate what I did before preparing for this video. So let's give it a folder and say, I want to create new project. Create a new folder. Project will be a web page which has full screen web camera and uses something like media pipe to detect hand gestures and allow drawing on the screen and selecting width, color, and similar things. Kinda draw on your webcam with hand gestures type of app. Create a folder and create such a project for me, and then open in Chrome. Let's give that a try. Yesterday it went pretty well. So it created a directory, called it hand gesture drawing. It creates a HTML page now. Relatively small one. It adds some CSS. It did add libraries for it, media pipe libraries. And now it writes JavaScript. I hope that works out without kinks like yesterday. But yeah, we'll see. We will iterate. Part of this is to show you how you can use it in different ways. And for now, we can see that it can create folders, it can do multi-file editings and creation of files. And we will iterate a bit on it to have a little bit of fun. Okay, it finished and it's opening in browser. We can see the camera. For now, I don't see anything about... Oh, it is. Yes, it's working. It's drawing. Cool. Okay. What? I kind of dislike how it does Eraser. Let's iterate a little bit. Okay. Kind of like it already. I want to see a circle around pointing finger when I am drawing. And if hand is closer, circle is larger. If hand is further, circle is smaller. I want it to detect an open palm that will be erasing, and it will draw a circle around the palm. Use that as eraser. Also, closer, larger, further, smaller. Let's see how it can edit. It's actually writing a file this time. It's rewriting the file we had before. Yes, so it's not using block editing. It's in this case it does full rewrite this time. I guess it planned a lot of changes, so it decided that full rewrite is better. But I will insist on using block editing later to show you how that works. Sometimes it on its own decides to do block edits instead of full rewrites. But let's see. Oh, now it does block editing. You can see that it wrote one file. And it tries to do reload. It told operating system to reload the browser. And it did, yeah, and here it did add block editing. So it can do pinpoint edits instead of full rewrites, which is faster and also allows it to do less changes. And it did it in index.html file, and it changed the instructions. I do think I want more changes in that sense. Okay, so I can draw. Oh, eraser is black. Okay, so it's size change, width, distance. Well, let's ask a couple of other things. I think it's not doing exactly what I want. Eraser draws with black. It should draw with transparent. That's one thing. Second thing, remove two finger gestures and mode switching. Drawing is one finger, erasing is open palm. Also remove thumbs up to clear whole canvas. No need for that. Okay, let's ask it to do a couple of more changes. So it does again full rewrite of the app. So I want to clear the canvas. It's not a draw. But at least it is smaller and bigger. Okay, how's it doing? Okay, rewriting HTML file now. Okay, refreshing the browser again. Okay, that's drawing, that's erasing. Okay, good. Okay, so now I want it to be like sizes should be different. Eraser circle should be approximately the size of the whole palm. Drawing circle should also scale with size of the palm, so that we can control size of the brush by moving hand closer or further. Okay, it made some more changes. Okay. I kind of don't see that it does that for... Okay, what about this? Yeah, this works. I kind of like this. Okay, whoop. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so this part works. Part that doesn't work is that it's not... It seems not to change size of drawing circle based on how large palm is. Erasing does work. It's interesting that for the file it decides to do full rewrites. I wonder if it can... I should nudge it to do more block editings in this sense. So let's actually let's draw an M C. Yeah, too big. Let's go a bit further back and say that. Whoops. Oh, it's refreshing. Let's see what's gonna happen. So it kind of feels big. What about now? Yeah, it seems not to like do this part. We'll see. I maybe will iterate a little bit later. Don't want to do it here, but yeah. C P MCP. Anyways, this is somewhat like, maybe let's give it a last try, and this time I will ask for editing. Remove control of brush size from UI. It should only be controlled by size of the palm, like a erasing circle, just at point the pointing finger. Use block editing for these changes. Yeah, this time it does block editing on HTML file. and block editing on app file. You can see how that works. It's like it erased the thing. It said like find this, replace with nothing. And here it's like find this, replace with this, and so on and so on. It refreshed the browser again. Let's see. I don't know, it's kind of, I don't, oh, actually it does. You can see now it is bigger. Like it's bigger, it's smaller. Eraser, small eraser, big eraser. Yeah, okay, it works. Let's do maybe one more thing. Let's actually put it on GitHub. Let's create a new repository. Say that I'm the owner. It will be camera gesture drawing. Web app with webcam that does drawing with hand gestures. It's gonna be public. No readme, license. Let's do mid license. No templates, let's create. Let's take URL. Let's go here and say that now I want to push it to POM. Add it as remote and push. Add git ignore if needed. Let's now make it push that to GitHub. I'll help you. It's writing git ignore file, initializing the git, adding files to git, committing with a message, initial hand gesture drawing with webcam using media pipe, adds remote URL I gave it, pushes. What else does it do? Pulls. Oh, it failed because we had the license file, I guess, right? So anyways, it pulled, pushed, and it should be here. And it's here. We can see the files, and now we can go to settings, pages, deploy from branch. Should we? Oh yeah, that's how it was. It's gonna take a moment. Okay, it's deployed. Let's visit the site. It's here. We can allow the camera, and it's deployed. I will share a link in description below. Yeah, okay, we can draw here and say something like git. Okay, have fun. I will share the link in the description. So now that I showed you everything that I wanted, it's time to draw some conclusions. Claude with my MCP can start, manage, and run long-running processes like video encoding. And this is something that products like Windsurf and Cursor, even with MCPs, can't really do because they are just not made for that. In that sense, they feel kind of like boxes made for coding, and you work inside of those boxes. Now, Claude does has its own issues, but it still feels kind of like a way much more open box. And with my MCP, I showed you that it can do things like code exploration, code migrations, work with Git and terminal, install things, set up things, do a lot. And Windsurf and Cursor can do those things, but I found myself using them less and less and using Claude more and more, and because there is more friction in how you need to use them. And I did show you that in this video. What this means for me is that I'm canceling my Windsurf subscription because I cannot justify paying for it with my dropping usage while usage of this is growing for me. So that is how it is for me. Now, to be fair, there is one workflow that I know of where Cursor could be better. and it's a workflow where it suggests and autocompletes code for you as you're writing code. I am not really big fan of that workflow, but there are people who do like it. So if you like this kind of workflow, do try Cursor. Maybe it will be a better tool for you. But otherwise, maybe you're like me and give this a try then, because maybe you will find that this works better for you. So that's it for content of this video. Is this it? No, I do plan more things next. Firstly, I am currently finishing integration of VS Code ripgraph into my MCP. Why? Because it would give my MCP way better ability to search for code in Codebase. So one of my next videos will be about this, and I will be releasing this soon. This is one of the next video topics. Basically, MCPs are growing in popularity, and I'm planning a small series of smaller MCP related videos. Now, one more interesting topic that I want to look into is Claude Code. I haven't played with it too much, but for me, there is a very big question. Why? In a sense that what does this do that Claude with MCPs cannot do already? I think not much. But if I will find something really interesting that it can do that MCPs cannot, I do plan to make a video about that, and I do plan to try to give additional tools to Claude with MCPs so that they can do the same things that Claude Code does. So if you're interested, subscribe and you will see that video. And then there is one more topic that I want to look into. Uh, Over last quarter, couple of months, we were under onslaught of new models that are better and better than everything. Like we got O1, O1 Mini, O3 Mini, we got DeepSeeker 1, we got Grok 3, we got models from Google like Gemini 2 Point Flash. A lot of interesting models, some of which can be used for cheap or even for free. And then there are also new local models that are very promising. Some of them are based on DeepSeek, or there is V4 from Microsoft, there is Gemma 3 from Google, there is also OpenR1 Olympic Coder from Hugging Face that claims that it's even better than Sonnet 3.7, and it runs fully local. So a lot of interesting stuff that I'm not super interested in because none of them use MCPs, or it's at least it's not easy to connect them to MCPs and use in a way that I showed in this video. Basically, for me, LLMs are only as useful as their ability to use tools, and MCP is emerging standard of giving tools to LLMs. So I was on a hunt. I was on a hunt for some kind of a product that allows to connect almost any LLM through APIs or local to almost any MCP and test how well those models can actually use tools, because that's the most useful thing there is. And I checked products like Codename Goose, which is kind of Claude, but with multiple LLMs and can use MCPs. But it was not good enough. I also checked open source LibreChat, also was not good. I think the best one I saw so far was Fire App, which has pretty decent set of LLMs you can choose, but it has only like hard-coded list of MCPs it can use. So all of them feel like there are issues with them. So I'm playing with one more side project that allows to connect any LLM to any MCP. And here you, for example, can see an example where GPT-4 uses sequential thinking in my desktop commander already. And I do plan especially to test it with local models, because imagine a local model using MCPs running on your computer. Everything happens locally, no external APIs, no costs, no nothing. So this is something I'm playing with. So if this is interesting and valuable for you, do subscribe. Also, if you think this is valuable, leave a like and leave comments and share, because this tells YouTube this video is useful for people like you, and it will suggest it to other people like you. So be helpful to them and to me. So also, if you found this video super useful, consider giving me super thanks. This will really help me to continue this work. So thank you and see you next time.